over to the women, I find the contrast really interesting because it feels like where the men are now, anywhere between 12 and 20th in the country, if you're just doing it by the metrics, it feels like that's where the women were at the beginning of the season. And since then, I know it's been a very tough schedule and the hardest league in America, but since then, it's been rough, especially here recently. 4 straight losses, including one to Oklahoma. Where do you think this team is from a mental standpoint as they go deep into the season? Because obviously they play in a very tough league. They know they are talented, but they're not getting the wins on the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of give an exact read in the sense of where they are mentally, but when you watch, and you watch from tip off to, the final whistle, you can see that something isn't quite right.
Yeah.
And whether that's, the effort, whether that's just, defense of breakdowns, you watch the half court defense and there's some, backdoor layups that you're just like, this can't happen
Mm-hmm.
if you're one of the best teams in the country. This can't happen when you represent the brand of the Lady Vols, one of the greatest women's college basketball programs in the history of the game. This can't happen. And I think, you know, it really is a question for everybody right now is what's wrong? Because, there's going to be some fingers pointing and going, okay, well, it's Kim and her staff. And then some people are going to point and go, okay, well, it's the seniors. They seem to be checked out. They don't seem to be, wanting it as much as the other teams or even the underclassmen on the team. And right now, there's so many question marks of what's going on. And I think this could be a season that could really just go off the rails
Mm-hmm.
to where I think, this is a team that's probably going to make the NCAA tournament regardless if they lose out just by,
Right.
Their strength of schedule and where they are. But, heading into the tournament, they got to figure out a couple of things because right now this could be a team that loses in the first round of the Southeastern Conference tournament and then loses in maybe the first or second round of the national tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get that, you're going to have a lot of unhappy Tennessee fans to go, man, like, we were excited last year. We had this young coach in her first season who willed us to the Sweet 16, and we beat UConn. We're the last team to beat UConn last year. There's so much excitement. And I think if you head into this season, the end of this season, if you head into the off season, with just a complete collapse, there's going to be a lot of pointing fingers. There's going to be a lot of grumbling, and it's going to be a very loud off season for, okay, changes need to be made, whether that's, getting these seniors out who might not be, checked in. Maybe that's
Right.
not the issue.
Right.
Or, hey, things got to change in the way that this game is being played. Then yeah, that's certainly going to be a hot topic heading into the off season.
Well, all of a sudden, how important are these last 2 games against LSU, against Vanderbilt, for just Kim Caldwell herself?
Yeah, I think even just for getting a confidence of, hey, if we can't win any of our last 6 games, 7 games heading into the SEC tournament, can we win any games going into the
Mm-hmm.
SEC tournament? I think you got to get at least one of those. It's tough that it's got to be LSU and Vandy, who are both 2 of the best teams in the country right now in women's college basketball. I feel like you have to get one just to kind of spur your confidence of, okay, we believe that we can beat anybody. And then you head into SEC play and anything can happen. But I think you got to get one of the 2. If you lose both of them, you're really not feeling good heading into into postseason play. That's what basketball is. The hottest teams in the country win in March, and right now they are not one of the hottest teams in the country.